Never has a request to use the bathroom caused so much havoc. Last week, two black men were awaiting a meeting at a Starbucks in Philly. They asked to use the bathroom, but they were told no, because it was reserved for customers, and they had bought nothing. So they returned to their seats, and because they had purchased nothing, they were then asked to leave. Well, they didn't, and the manager called 911.
Hi, I have two gentlemen at my cafe that are refusing to make a purchase or leave. I'm at the Starbucks at 18th and Spruce. All right, please, I'll be on as soon as possible.
The two men were arrested, but not before it was all captured on a phone, and then it went viral. Well, soon a Starbucks boycott campaign raged across social media. Activists rushed to the offending Starbucks shop and others as well, and hashtags such as Starbucks while black started trending big time. And within a day, Starbucks had apologized. And then 2 days after the incident, the manager who called 911 was no longer with the company, and its founder, Howard Schultz, described her this way.
And I think you have to say, in looking at the tape, that she demonstrated her own level of unconscious bias. And in looking at the tape, you ask yourself whether or not that, in fact, was racial profiling. There's no doubt in my mind that the reason that they were called was because they were African American.
There's a lot we still don't know, and here are some questions. Was there a pattern of racial bias in this Philadelphia Starbucks? Were other African Americans treated unfairly there? And did this particular employee display a pattern or practice of racism in the past? Or was she just enforcing company policy by denying the bathroom to non-customers and trying to stop some loitering? Because that's also not good for business. Well, the call to the cops seems like overkill. But again, we don't know the full story. As Starbucks faced these demonstrations all over the country, there was a rush to judgment, and the company quickly jumped on it, and a lot of people think went overboard. Rather than just apologizing and disciplining an out-of-line employee, Starbucks announces that it was closing 8,000 stores for 1 day in May. And on that day, they will force 170,000 of its employees to undergo racial bias training. According to the Washington Post, the sessions will include training in something you might not know of, but it's called unconscious bias, where apparently you're unaware of your inherent biases, you display no overt racism, but you're biased nonetheless. The training will be guided by, wait for it, former Attorney General Eric Holder, the NAACP, and anti-defamation legal officials. What could possibly go wrong? Holder, of course, has his own history in discussing race.
In things racial, we have always been, and we, I believe, continue to be, in too many ways, essentially a nation of cowards.
That was how he introduced himself to the Justice Department when he became Attorney General, by the way. And this is the man who will conduct a training on race relations of 175,000 employees? Okay. So this is where we are. One employee in Philadelphia calls the cops on a pair of black men, and employees across the nation are kind of assumed to be latent racists. Starbucks is one of the most liberal companies in the world. You think Ben & Jerry's kind of here on the level of left wing? Starbucks is up here. Look, they support Planned Parenthood. They've hired refugees as a protest against President Trump's policies. They forced baristas to address race relations with customers a few years back. Remember they were made to scrawl that hashtag race together on coffee cups? Well, but if the coffee chain thought that it was going to inoculate itself against liberal ire by being left-leaning, they were wrong. Their progressive, supposedly inclusive identity just made them an easy target for protesters. By the way, a comedian, I didn't even know this, I thought it was for real earlier today, but a comedian is going to join us later. He decided to see just how far liberal guilt would go in Starbucks. So he found his way into a Starbucks, and he demanded reparations.
I heard y'all was racist, so I came to get my free coffee.
I saw that.
Yeah, I heard you guys don't like black people, so I wanted to get my Starbucks reparations voucher. What's that?
Is that a real thing?
It's a real thing.
I mean, I'll give it to you. you. I saw that on my Twitter last night.
She gives him the coffee. I think he should have just asked for the entire espresso machine, or at least a venti frappuccino. Yeah, whatever you want, take it. The question all of this begs is the following. How just is it to subject all Starbucks employees to the high-paid indoctrination of the racism industry because of the actions of one employee? And will this actually strengthen race relations, or could it actually deepen division between the races? If we're not careful, and if we don't refuse to get all the facts, and if we don't refuse to be bullied by activists who jump to the worst motives, worst conclusions about people right off the bat, well, we may just end up doing the opposite of what we want to do. We may end up poisoning the well further in this country, and we may be encouraging more mob takedowns of well-intentioned people or organizations, or people who just make mistakes. And that's the angle.